Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yo, what's good, original crew, man? We back. We got top 3 strange but true. This would be your new worst fear. Your boy sent this. Yeah, that you gotta holler at him. See.
Strange but true.
You gotta holler at him, see.
This would be your new worst fear. I don't want no. I got a lot of fears. I don't want no new fears.
Shout out to Kari, man. Hey, got another one, man. I saw some other recommendations in the last video. We will get to those as well. So keep submitting ones that we haven't seen before. Also, we got a new crime. We got a crime reaction we did. Haven't put that out yet. You know which one I'm talking about. It's gonna be on a backup channel because that one was wild, and I don't want nothing to happen. Over here. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna put that on the backup channel. So be on the lookout. If you do like the true crime stories, we're gonna be putting that over there. That one was wild and crazy. And shout out to the one that recommended that one. We got you. Just we're just trying to play it safe.
Always.
So with that being said, make sure y'all check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go if you want the first part. All you gotta do is check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video,
like it with a thumbs up.
All right, but let's go ahead and get into this balling with top 3 strange but true. Let's go.
In 2015, a young man living in Honduras made his way to the local cemetery and he found his wife's gravesite and he leaned up against it and he quietly began to cry. Seconds later, something would happen inside of that cemetery that would not only cause the young man to go silent, get up, and start running, but it would also be caught on camera. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please invite the like button to come to the zoo with you, and then cover them in honey and push them into the bear enclosure. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. In the spring of 2021, 52-year-old Texas resident Karen Davis got married, and then after the ceremony and after the honeymoon, she went through the process of changing her last name from Davis to McBride to match her husband's last name. After the change was done, the last step was to get a new driver's license with the new name on it. So Karen emailed the local DMV, or Department of Motor Vehicles, to set up a time for her to come in and make the change to her license. But after she sent that email, the local DMV immediately emailed Karen back, and they told her that they could not help her with this request until she resolved an issue. Now, they didn't specify what this issue was. However, they very cryptically said it had something to do with the state of Oklahoma. And then at the bottom of the email, there was just a phone number they told her she needed to call in order to resolve this issue. And so Karen's thinking, okay, that's pretty weird, but I did used to live in Oklahoma, so that probably has something to do with it. And so, not thinking much of it, she punched this number the DMV had given her into her phone, and then she let it ring. A few moments later, much to Karen's shock, a woman from the Norman, Oklahoma District Attorney's Office picked up the phone and said, "How can I help you?" Karen immediately assumed that the DMV must have made a mistake, that maybe they were trying to give Karen some other number in Oklahoma because this was an Oklahoma problem, and they had mistakenly given her the number to the DA's office. But since she had this woman on the phone, Karen told her, hey, I was just trying to get a new license in Texas. They told me there was some sort of issue. It had to do with me potentially living in Oklahoma. I don't know what it is, but this is the number they gave me. So I'm sure it's a mistake, but that's why I'm calling. The woman from the DA's office had no idea who Karen was, but after taking down Karen's information and looking on her computer, she discovered Karen's so-called Oklahoma problem. And after she explained to Karen what this enormous problem was, Karen literally couldn't believe it. But after this woman went over the details a few more times and really showed Karen that this Oklahoma problem was very, very real, suddenly everything in Karen's life made sense. For the last 22 years, Karen, who was incredibly smart and friendly and polite and never had a problem.
What the hell you said? For
I don't know. I so much stuff be going through my head.
what?
And
What's going on?
I'm like, was she like a missing person? I'm thinking that. I was like, was she like kidnapped and she never knew and now
No. It said for 22 years. She's 52.
Oh, no.
No, because she would have known.
Right. I forgot about the dates. See, because my mind going crazy right now.
Or did she commit a crime?
And she didn't.
And
But
she
she
like-
would know. I'm not about to willingly. Soon I heard the click. Change number. Hello.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Years, Karen, who was incredibly smart and friendly and polite and never had a problem with anyone, had an incredibly hard time getting a job. Even jobs that she was extremely qualified for, she would get turned down for someone who was way less qualified. And then, in the rare times that Karen did actually get hired, she would always get fired for no reason. And so Karen never understood why she was being treated this way until now. It would turn out 22 years earlier, which is when Karen's hireability issues began, she lived in Norman, Oklahoma, which is where the DA's office was that she would end up calling 22 years later. And when she was living in Norman, she lived with a roommate. And this roommate was this nice young man who had a couple of young kids. And one weekend, he went to the local movie store called Movie Place, and he rented the hit 90s movie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, to watch with his kids. And after he was done watching this movie, he didn't return the VHS tape of Sabrina the Teenage Witch back to Movie Place. Now, normally when this happened, the movie store would just hit the card holder with lots of late fees, which was actually great for the movie store. They made lots and lots of money on individual people that just forgot to return their movies. And if the card holder just continued to hold on to this delinquent movie, at some point the movie store would just hit them with a final fee that basically accounted for the total cost of the VHS tape that they had effectively stolen. And then at that point, the matter was resolved. The card holder owned the VHS tape, whether they knew it or not, and the movie store simply moved on. But in this case, Movie Place in Norman, Oklahoma, didn't think that was enough. And when Sabrina the Teenage Witch was not returned in a timely fashion, they pressed charges against the card holder. And the card holder was Karen Davis. The roommate had just borrowed her card. And somehow, these charges against Karen were never brought up to Karen. She was never contacted by anyone. And so for 22 years, she was technically a wanted felon, meaning every time one of her employers, either during the interview process or after she was hired, when they would run a criminal background check on her, it would pop up she was wanted for felony embezzlement. And so this was the reason she kept not getting jobs and kept getting fired from jobs. Since discovering these charges, Karen worked with the Norman, Oklahoma DA's office and got these charges dismissed.
That's weird as hell.
That is so weird. And then,
it is strange but true.
It's strange but true. And then after I said what I said, I was like, wait a minute. She called never mind. That wouldn't even made sense. Like, because I remember who she had called, the number, who it was. And
I'm like, she would have been possibly arrested by now. But why y'all just never like reported her or something? So if
that
she
makes
wanted,
no sense.
I would have just sent say, hey, we got alert. We had a wanted fugitive here and then
like,
well, she would have got
jobs.
arrested though.
Who you talking about?
I'm talking about the job,
like,
but she would have ended up getting arrested and getting expedited. So I'll say this: it's kind of good that she did
that
go
is in this fashion.
This way instead of the other way, because what I look like going, I'm at home, I get arrested, I got the U.S. Marshals at my door coming to knock. You're wanted.
I would have been calling that old roommate.
I would have been like, hell, what the hell I'm going to jail for? Then you turn
so
around,
mad.
you get extradited back to Oklahoma just to find out what I'm got an embezzlement charge for.
Sabrina movie.
Bro, Sabrina Teenage, it was cool at the time. No, like, I ain't gonna get it.
Y'all cared about that movie that much that y'all
But
had to press
goddamn,
charges.
you got me even felony charge. You could have just charged me for $20 for the VHS tape.
That's it. That's all.
What the hell?
You gave him a card information.
You really press charge for Sabrina?
For Sabrina? Somebody really loves Sabrina the teenage a child at this point.
At this point, I'm
At
gonna go
this
back to
point.
my water, bro.
At this point, please hang it up.
I'm back in my water, man. Fuck that. But hey, shout out to Sabrina. She up here in Nashville.
Is she?
Yes.
Did you tell me that?
Yes. Because she said the price of Nashville too. It's like laughable expensive. It's like,
expensive.
yeah, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's like, it's funny that it's that expensive to live in that. But yeah, she in Nashville. But all right, let's move on. That was crazy.
That was.
In the early evening hours of December 24th, 2011, so Christmas Eve, 26-year-old Zazel Preston sat on her bed in her little apartment in Anaheim, California, and wrapped Christmas gifts for her children. Laying next to her was her newest addition to the family, her third child, a 7-week-old little boy. This Christmas was a big deal for Zazel. It was also a big deal for her husband, 30-year-old William Wallace, not only because it was going to be the first Christmas with their new son, but also because this was the first Christmas after Zazel and William had reconciled their relationship. They had been married for the past 3 years, but over those 3 years, their relationship had been very unhealthy and toxic and at times abusive. But earlier that year, when Zazel had discovered that she was pregnant, this baby became kind of like a new anchor point for their relationship. It was like suddenly they could put their differences aside and just focus on raising their kids together. After wrapping her final present, Zazel hopped off the bed, she scooped up her little boy, and then she headed out into the living room where she met up with her husband and her 2 older children, who were little girls aged 3 and 8, and then they all headed outside and went next door to celebrate Christmas Eve at a party with their neighbors. Early the next morning, so on Christmas Day, Zazel's 2 oldest children, the 2 girls, they got up early and they rushed out of their bedrooms and they ran down the hallway into the living room where their parents were waiting for them on the couch along with their baby brother. The living room was completely decked out with Christmas decorations that the family had put up over the past couple of weeks. The Christmas tree was in the corner with bright multicolored lights and ornaments all over it. There were wreaths on the wall and other string lights around the top of the room. And then over their fireplace were all of their stockings nailed up, stuffed with goodies. The little girls squealed with delight and ran around the couch and took up spots right underneath the Christmas tree, and they grabbed their first present and they turned and looked at their parents on the couch and they saw their dad kind of give them a nod of approval, which meant, okay, you can start opening your gifts. And so the girls happily began tearing into the festive wrapping, and then after each of them had their brand new toy in hand, they turned around.
Why the hell you allowing the kids to open the gifts and the mom ain't there?
I thought he said that the mom there.
I thought he just said, oh,
I
my
thought
bad,
he's-
my bad. My bad.
I thought.
Wrapping, and then after each of them had their brand new toy in hand, they turned around reflexively to show their parents.
Okay.
And so William, he sees the toys and he says, oh, they're so great, guys. And then when the girls, they look at their mother and they show her the toys, she doesn't even react. She completely ignores them. And so at some point, these little kids, they start yelling for their mom, hey mom, check it out, look at this new toy. But Zazel just sits there. She doesn't say a word. She's just sitting back on the couch, completely ignoring them. Finally, the 8-year-old turns to William and says, what's wrong with mommy? And at this point, William pauses, and then he gives Zazel a scathing look before very bluntly saying to these young kids, mommy got drunk, and now she's ruined Christmas. The girls knew from William's tone of voice that their parents must be fighting, and so they did what they normally did when this happened, and that was to just try to ignore it. And so the little girls, they turned away from their parents and began opening more presents, doing their best not to disturb their parents, who were sitting silently behind them. And then, a little after 9 a.m., after most of the presents had been opened, William abruptly stood up and walked into the other room and placed a phone call. And then, a few minutes later, there was a loud knock on the front door. The night before, after Zazel and William and their kids had left their neighbor's party and come back to their apartment, Zazel and William had gotten into a vicious fight. and by the time the kids had all gone to bed, the fight between the parents had become very physical. Neighbors would recall late at night on Christmas Eve hearing this very loud commotion coming from Zazelle and William's apartment. And at some point, apparently Zazelle had tried to run out of the apartment, but William had chased after her and hauled her back inside. The sounds coming from their apartment would eventually stop somewhere in the wee hours of Christmas Day. And then as the sun came up on Christmas Day, Zazelle and William had made their way to the couch, and they were sitting there with their 7-week-old baby, waiting for their two oldest to wake up and come open presents. Except when their two little girls came out of their bedrooms and bombed into the living room to begin celebrating, only William was alive. Zazelle had been beaten to death by William. And after he had beaten her to death the night before, he had dragged her into the living room, set her up on the couch to make it look like she was sitting, and then put sunglasses on her eyes in order to trick the children. And so all morning, as this 3-year-old and 8-year-old are opening these gifts and turning and showing their mother with excitement, she was dead the whole time. But at around 9 a.m., William realized his charade was not going to last because his kids were really keyed in to there being something wrong with their mother. And so that was when he got up and he called 911 and he told them that his wife had gotten drunk and fallen into a glass coffee table. And so she was hurt. And so a little bit later, the police and paramedics, they arrive, they go inside, and right away they can tell William is lying to them. There's more to this story than they're being told. And so ultimately, William would be convicted of second-degree murder, and he would be sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. As for Zazelle's 3 children, they are now being looked after by her parents.
Wow.
That is so messed up. And I knew that's what it was.
Yeah.
I knew because I was like...
Because you had already mentioned before that their marriage was already rocky and very toxic and I guess abusive anyway before they decided to work it out for, you know.
I knew she was dead anyway when she was when they was
just
like...
there, no emotion.
Because even if she drunk, nobody's going to be drunk and not, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And not react. If you're drunk and your kid, you might be overreact. You'd be like, sit your drunk ass down. You know what I'm saying?
But then, even if I'm drunk, I'm not getting drunk early in the morning. I probably got a hangover now because they went to the party.
But you still will be responsive in some type of form of fashion.
That's what I'm saying, right. So you using the drunk thing, that didn't make sense anyway. But... And
you know what's so bad about it? You held the 7-week-old. It was 7 week, right?
7 weeks.
Not gonna remember.
No.
3-year-old maybe have some memorization of everything that happened, but that 8-year-old will always have the memory of seeing her mother in that condition and realizing she was looking at a dead corpse. For one, and I'm like, was it not a smell? You know what I'm saying?
Probably not that soon. And keep in mind, it's December too. It was just a few hours because they went to the party the night before and Christmas is
because she probably relieved herself too, though. You gotta think about that.
Possibly, but I'm saying as far as like that type of foul odor of a dead body, not that. No,
should possibly steal some type of odor after you relieve yourself, right?
I mean, yeah, but I'm saying not that type of odor that you're thinking about, and also these are kids, so they're not understanding that.
They know what something stinking, not.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't want to, but no, I'm just still saying,
just
like,
sad.
At the end of the day, the 8-year-old has to live with that memory of seeing her mother and experiencing all that. That child will always have that memory within them, and it would never go away. You know what I'm saying? The 3-year-old, possibly, but the 8-year-old, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's such a tragic thing. That's a tragic event for any child. And then the fact that I know the last child is possibly his, but are those other 2 his? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all was only married for 3 years, so but
they probably could have been together before and just married 3.
So now, but with me saying that, I'm saying is the fact of now they're without the mom. Yeah. But if those are his kids as well, they're also now without a dad. Facts. And so now they're having to be raised
by her parents
and not even knowing my mother or my father. So when every time I see a situation like, I'm like, do y'all ever think about the kids? It's selfish rage. No. It's always about selfish rage. And luckily he didn't harm the kids, because a lot of times in situations like that, a lot of people end up harming the kids as well because they're like, "Hey, we gonna get rid of every," you know what I'm saying? And who knows if it was truly second degree or possibly premeditated. I think we just had in that part probably had to try to get some type of conviction, but it's a possibility that he wasn't gonna stop until he really hurt her. Because we don't know what might happen at the party where y'all both intoxicated. Did somebody flirt with somebody? Like, what was, or were y'all just too toxic to even honestly make it work in the first place? Where at the point where if y'all was always fighting or arguing, and also you got to think about this: the neighbors heard it, but nobody intervened, nobody called the police. So is it something that they always heard anyways?
That's like the norm for them.
Because if I'm hearing it and I'm like, this ain't normal, and I'm hearing somebody trying to run, and she probably screaming, and then you yank her back in there, and I'm 9 times out of 10 you gonna hear that. You gonna hear that door slam after the fact. Call the police. 9 times out of 10. But if it's something of norm, a lot of people are like, I'm just gonna mind my business. Or if you're in that type of community, you just gonna mind your business. Because sometimes in certain communities, people like,
regardless of the fact,
hey,
if it's the norm or not,
just mind your business. You know what I'm saying?
Sadly, yeah.
But that's fucked up, dog.
Most definitely.
Like, shout out, like, not shout out, wrong word. But for the kids, I hope they do go through the proper care that's really 100% needed, especially the 3 and the 8-year-old. Because they're going to need, especially the 8-year-old, going to really need a lot of help throughout life. So, my heart is with them.
Yeah, most definitely.
In August of 2015, 16-year-old Nacy Perez suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. As she lay there scanning around the dark, tiny room that she was in, it dawned on her that the most likely reason she had just woken up is because she really needed to use the bathroom. And so she climbed out of her bed and she began carefully walking across the room where her other relatives were sleeping on the floor as she moved towards the back of the house. Nacy lived in a town called La Entrada, which is located in one of the poorest and most dangerous countries in the world, Honduras. But despite the harshness of her reality, Nacy was pretty happy. She had recently married the boy she was in love with. His name was Rudy, and the two of them were both very excited about their first child, which was due in a matter of months. So Nacy reached the back of her house, she pushed open the back door, and she stepped out into the hot night air, and then she made the familiar walk across her backyard toward the outhouse. But Nacy would never reach the outhouse. The next morning, Nacy's mother woke up first. Her name was Maria, and as she passed by the back door, she looked outside and she saw Nacy lying on the ground. And so Maria, she screams, she runs outside to her daughter, and she flips her over and she's looking at her, and Nacy is unresponsive and she's foaming at the mouth. Now, they're in a part of the world where healthcare was not top-notch, not even close. And Honduras is known for being an extremely religious part of the world. And so Maria did not think, oh, I should send my daughter to the hospital or I should call a doctor. Instead, Maria and the rest of Nacy's family, who had all streamed outside because of the commotion, they decided to call a priest to perform an exorcism because the belief was Nacy must be possessed with demons. And so a priest was hailed to the residence, and the priest would perform an exorcism on Nacy, but it wouldn't do anything. And so at that point, Maria and the rest of Nacy's family would take Nacy, who was still totally unresponsive and foaming, to the local hospital. But by that point, it was too late. Nacy was dead. When Nacy's family asked the doctors what happened to her, they said they didn't know. And so heartbroken and confused, Maria and the rest of Nacy's family.
I'm low-key pissed. Well, you gotta also think about other cultures. Other cultures do
Everybody
treat
moves
things
differently.
But if we can get a priest to come out that fast, we can get her to the hospital.
Yeah.
But due to the beliefs and how they
that wasn't their first
deal with things, it's not like you said, it's not their first go-to thought. But I'm like, damn, possibly if somebody foaming at the mouth, then
Yeah.
it's like a medical condition. Let's see what
Yeah.
They didn't know. And so, heartbroken and confused, Maria and the rest of Nacy's family brought Nacy back home. They had an ad hoc memorial service, and then they buried her. The following day, Nacy's husband, Rudy, who was totally distraught because he has not only lost his wife, he's also lost his unborn child. He got up early and he just had to go to the cemetery to be with his wife. And so he made his way over to the local cemetery and he found his wife's gravesite. Nacy had not been buried under the earth. Instead, she had been placed into a coffin, and that coffin had been slid into this big hollowed out cement block that was as big as a coffin. And then once the coffin was slid inside, they walled up the opening. So basically her gravesite was this kind of freestanding big cement block. And so Rudy finds Nacy's cement block, and he goes up right next to it, and he leans up against it, and he begins to quietly sob. But just seconds later, he would hear something in that cemetery that would cause him to go completely silent, stand up, and sprint away. The day before, approximately 1 or 2 hours after Nacy's coffin was slid inside of that cement tomb and walled up, Nacy woke up. She was never dead. It's unclear what originally caused Nacy to collapse outside of her house on the way to the outhouse, but the two leading theories are, one, she had a severe panic attack caused by a nearby gunshot, or two, she had a severe episode of cataplexy. Cataplexy is the sudden, uncontrollable loss of muscle function, often brought on by very strong emotions. A mild case could be just having your knees buckle for a second. A severe case, which is what they believe could have happened to Nacy, would result in basically complete paralysis. But whatever the case was, the doctors at the hospital got it wrong. When Nacy was brought to them, she was not dead. And so when she woke up inside of her coffin that was encased in cement, she began shrieking and trying to pound up against the inside of these tight walls that were pressed up against her. And at some point, she even managed to force her hands up near her head, and she shattered the glass window that sat in her coffin that looked right down at her face. She broke the glass, but it didn't help her at all because, again, it's just cement on the other side. And so glass shards fell into her mouth and into her eyes. And so she stayed like that, screaming and trying to fight her way out for over 24 hours, trying to get anybody's attention. But nobody heard her. Until her husband, Rudy, he leaned up against her tomb and he put his ear right up against the cement and began to cry. And that's when he heard, through the cement, the sound of his wife calling out for help. Rudy instantly ran and got help, and he and his family came back, and they broke open the side of this tomb, and they pulled Nacy's coffin out, and even though she was now unresponsive, she had a faint heartbeat, and so they rushed her to the hospital, but by the time she got there, she really had died. Nacy had finally just run out of oxygen, likely within minutes of her husband finally hearing her screams. So that's gonna...
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
You know, we talk about that a lot.
A lot.
We talk about that a lot. Just imagine, like, even to this day. Because Ballen has he's talked on this before a lot. You know what I'm saying? Not a lot, but like several videos we came across and people have been deemed to be dead or looks as though they have deceased. And they're not. You know what I'm saying? So we like off camera we talk about this a lot just because it's so crazy and we have heard about it in the past. Like in years, like in centuries past of the happening. And like I've told you before, I've came across things where back in the day they would put people like in more shallow graves. Wooden coffins, but they would also put a bell and put a bell with a string, so if somebody died, they wake up, they could be able to ring the bell. And a lot of cases, people rung the bell, and whoever is taking care of the grave, they would come out and try to hurry up and get the people out. So just imagine how many people we have possibly pronounced dead
that weren't.
and there's not dead, and then you go through the embalming process, and you actually take out their organs, and now they're dead. But just imagine how many people who have been pronounced dead that are not actually deceased. They're still alive.
Right.
And so we talked about that. We was like, why don't... I understand it's the science behind of embalming and all that, but it's still like, you know?
Yeah. I'm here. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying you don't get what I'm saying. I'm saying like for their understanding, because people, I'm not having a conversation with them all the time.
Yeah.
So. But I know you understand. But I don't know, man. I still feel like year round, it got to be several cases where still to this day they have called deaths or called people who have transitioned and they're not.
And they're not. And I'm just like thinking like, because this is like a double devastating.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like super. And I know that y'all believe him because now y'all see her glasses shattered from her doing or whatever the case may be. And she has a light pulse.
No, keep going.
What you think of that?
Keep going.
She has a light pulse, so y'all like, dang, she really was alive. Like, we really put her in this. What you thinking about? What you looking at?
No, because keep talking.
We really like put her in this, or buried her, but put her, and she was alive the entire time with the baby, with her unborn baby, pregnant.
Reason why I went back.
Yeah.
It's not, to me, it's so crazy to the fact that we have video footage, right, of this incident. We have video footage of y'all even taking her out.
Yeah.
Y'all have that much time to want to call somebody and get them instead of dropping everything y'all got to do and we need to get her out ASAP. Y'all even called a fucking film crew. Because this ain't just somebody on a phone. This is literally a film crew. Like, you got the news, so what the... You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That in itself is like...
Or maybe they was already there trying to break through and they showed up in the midst of it. Because they almost like, but regardless of the fact...
And all it took was some hammers to break through it. Like, I feel...
It's just sad. That's sad.
And I'll say this. I feel like
sad.
Also with situations like this, especially in countries like this, I do feel as though y'all should still, because y'all, it seems as though y'all buried them, seems like immediately. So I do think best practice may be to continue like the old ritual, or have somebody monitoring those graves. But honestly, even if somebody was walking by, if they're not close up on it, I don't think they would have heard it anyway. For one, she's in a cement tomb. Yeah. So that's already muffling the sound, and you're in a tombstone. I mean, in a coffin. So you are already like the coffin's already muffling your screams, but also the cement. So nobody's being able to hear you.
And what's even more, I'm thinking about, if he never even went to visit her, he wouldn't have even known that. And then I'm like,
nobody probably would have.
No one would have. But I'm like, dang, did I want to know that? Like, I want to try to save if I can. But it's like, now we still too late. Didn't take, the proper action in the beginning. And then now we're taking, action. And it's still too late.
You know how terrifying that is, though? To be technically buried alive. And you wake up and you realize, I'm trapped. And I can't breathe. I can't move, and I can't go anywhere to escape.
And me in my head, I'm like, if that was me, I'm like, I'm hoping it's a dream, and this is not real life.
That's the reason why I guess it's titled one of your worst fears you can possibly ever have. Is like literally being buried alive, and you can't do anything about it.
That is definitely a fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know it still happens a lot because we've came across too many situations that, like, even from, I've seen kids have woken up at funeral, and then it'd be so many times where they're not dead, but it's the fact that they wake up and they're shocked that they have been pronounced deceased, where, like, even in times it gives them a heart attack, or it's too much stress on the body and the heart fails
Yeah.
because nobody ever wants to go through or experience their own funeral, their own death. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's too much on a person, on a human.
Right.
And so a lot of times in a situation like this, if the person does come back alive, they typically end up dying anyways.
Right.
And they're like, well, not come back alive because they always was alive. But wake up out of any state,
out of
whatever state they're in, they always come back and it's like they end up dying. It's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
But most definitely RP to the two individuals that unfortunately did pass from unfortunate situations.
Yeah.
Most definitely Miss Perez. I'm gonna say Miss Perez. Unfortunately, her and her unborn child. Unfortunately, like that's both for both. And most definitely, my heart goes out to Ruby. You lost two individuals. You just didn't lose one, and then you had an opportunity to gain at least one back.
Well, at least
one, if not both.
That wasn't able,
because the lack of oxygen possibly could have killed off the fetus if she did survive. But also RIP to Giselle. And my heart goes out to those kids as well, because no child should ever have to experience anything like that.
Not at all.
And I don't think 15 years is enough for her dude William.
Yeah.
I understand he got 15 years to life, so after 15 years he can go for parole.
Yeah.
And try. But honestly, bro, you deserve to be in jail. Hey, you got to live out your days for your life or another life. Your life behind bars. At least you're able to eat and breathe.
Yeah.
She don't have that opportunity anymore. So you deserve life in jail. It is what it is, my guy. And Karen, you taught me one thing: never let nobody use your card. Never let nobody use your card for nothing.
What you said?
Family, friends. Can I use it?
Nope.
Oops. I ain't got time for it. Karen, you know how hard your life probably has been for the last 22 years?
For the last
22 years? I can't keep a job. You get fired
from jobs. I can't keep no steady. You like, what?
And that's probably the reason why she moved to Texas. It's like, hey, let me try to fresh start somewhere.
Fresh start. Nothing's working. And you like, what?
You like, damn, is it me?
I can't be the problem
for 22 years, bro. I'm 52 and I ain't been able to keep.
That's sad, man. I done had a hard life because all of Sabrina the Teenage Witch movie won't return.
And I ain't even watched the bitch.
And I ain't
got control of it.
Where is it at now?
I'm looking for my roommate. We gonna have to fight.
What you saying? You have to see me.
But I really want to know what she had to do to, like, did she have to pay a fine? Do she, like...
Well, yeah, because it did say that they worked
because it was in 2021.
Her, so.
The movie spot ain't open no more. Like, you can't go to... Well, they did say it's one more Blockbuster open. That would be dope in the United States to go to pull up. What's up in the comments, man? Y'all let us know y'all thoughts and opinions about each story, man, down below. But as always, I do go by the name DJ Kid. This is
Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my folks. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me.